Mike Pereira, former head of NFL refs and Fox Rules analyst, fresh back from New Orleans, calling into the show. How are you, Mike?
I am great, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Okay, so let's walk through it. What do you think's going on in Al Riveron's world right now?
Well, it's not a good world to be in. I'm telling you, he's getting heat from everywhere, including from upstairs in the league office. You take two games, championship games that ended in overtime. It should have been a grand day for the league, regardless of the fact that maybe some people don't like, the overtime play with only one team getting the ball, as was the case with the Patriots. But the talk is all about officiating, and that's not what the league wants. And the talk has been all about really officiating for the last 2 years, and replay's been a huge part of that. And, we got an interesting player here in the mix, and that's Sean Payton, who is on the competition committee and is going to go into those meetings starting in February at the Combine with his guns loaded. And he's a tough guy, and he's going to want to walk out of that meeting in February and then the follow-up meeting in March with something that will address what happened, at the end of their game. So I think we're on the verge of maybe taking a leap forward. I hope we're on the verge of taking a leap forward and finding a way to correct mistakes like yesterday in 20 seconds. And if you can do that, and really kind of take a bold step in looking how to do that by taking an eighth official and putting him as a member of a crew in a booth with replay equipment, with just he and a technology person with him, and allow him to just get on the horn. He has communication to Bill Vinovich, and to immediately say after the first replay, Bill, that was pass. I'm your crew member. I call him the sky judge. Bill Vinovich, that was pass interference at the 6-yard line. It was also hitting the defenseless receiver, by the way, which both get enforced. Take the ball, put it at the 3, first down, play on, go. I think we're going to have to look at doing something like that to eliminate these types of misses.
Well, as you know, I have opinions, and
yes,
I not only have opinions, I've got suggestions. Because I'm not just going to rail on something without offering a solution. I like that idea for the final 2 minutes, but you can't have some unnamed, unknown official sitting up in a booth somewhere calling down when a flag hasn't been thrown. If you've got fans in the stands looking for a flag and they're going crazy, and then all of a sudden something buzzes down, you might think that somebody is reacting under pressure based on what a crowd did or not. You've got to have, outside of it, an ability to challenge it. You've got to have it. It's got to be a coach's challenge initiated, unless it's in the last 2 minutes. But everything should be reviewable, and anything should be reviewable. Mike?
Well, I don't think I agree with you. I don't think it has to be a challenge. And I'm not talking about a hidden guy. I mean, I'm talking about an eighth member of the crew.
No, I know, but you don't see.
I think, listen, you've got crowd reaction inside of 2 minutes too. Where are you influencing the replay official upstairs to stop the game to take another look? I mean, I don't know if that's a relevant argument in my mind. All I want to do is to figure out how to correct obvious mistakes, and do it without stopping the game for 3 minutes. And listen, technology's not going to get worse, and officiating's not going to get better. I mean, it's so damn tough as it is right now. So you've got to look at the technology that is available and the speed that you can get it, and see if you can do something. If it was me, I would go to the committee and I would say, look, let's not make hasty decisions here. Let's use the 64 preseason games that we have prior to the 2019 season, and let's experiment with this. Let's put an eighth official in this booth. Let's let him officiate the game as the eighth member of the crew. And just like the crew gets together when there's a block in the back call and somebody has a different angle, he's just another remember here, and let's see if we can correct the obvious mistakes. And if it works in 64 games, then let's say in 2019 we put it in the playoffs to ensure that it doesn't happen. And then if it works, maybe then adopt it in 2020 going forward for all games.
Look at you.
I just think we've got to look forward and really kind of change how we have approached officiating and technology to make it better.
Look at you, Mike Pereira.
Without extending the game,
No, now, see, that's what you keep saying. Now, you keep saying that, Mike Pereira. You, throughout years, I have been saying, let's make everything and anything reviewable, and you're like, well, that's going to extend the game. It's going to be too long. That's why I'm at least saying it's got to be initiated from the coaching sidelines. Let's take a look at that. I saw a holding, and then put an actual limit on that. So not only do you can maintain a human element to officiating, which I think is important, even fans would agree that there's got to be some of that, but let's make sure that it comes from the coaches. You see an actual red challenge flag come out and say that should have been holding, that should have been pass interference, that should have been this, as opposed to an eighth official that we're not seeing, okay, and then we're suddenly getting some sort of call out of nowhere on something that we didn't see. Like now suddenly there's going to be an illegal contact that gets missed, that's in the second quarter, that suddenly is going to get called. I think people are going to go absolutely insane. Let's not use it for every play, but let's make everything reviewable under the actual construct that we already have in terms of a finite number of challenges.
Well, I mean, I don't think they'll do that. I mean, I think that's out of the question. I just can't see them ever adopting the Bill Belichick thing and Rich Eisen thing,
yes,
where let the coach challenge everything, because that's going to lead to even longer games than if you did it the way that I'm proposing to do it. Because everybody says, well, you know what, we don't want to give the coaches more challenges. Well, you're giving them more challenges, because look at it now. I mean, coaches don't have to challenge a turnover. They don't have to challenge a play that's ruled, a score. And so you only have about 1.3 coaches challenges a game. Let them challenge everything, and we know that under the current system they get 2 challenges, and if they get them both right, they get a third. Right. So it might go 1.2 to 5, challenges a game. I just don't see them. I don't see the committee doing that. I see them looking at something. I think less dramatic, and I know that you're talking about the official that can't be seen, right, but I just think that they could take some smaller steps to maybe correct 6 things in the time it would take, for them to correct 2 in actual replay challenge situations.
Right. I just find it hard to, I view, you view things through the lens of a former official, former head of NFL refs, for somebody who's in the league office. I put myself in the shoes of a fan, or on the couch of a fan, and I'm like sitting there thinking, is there a flag on the play? Okay, no flags. Now I'm going to sit there thinking, okay, is there a flag on the play? No flags. Is there a flag from the booth? No flag from the booth. That play now stands. I think that would just drive some fans nuts. But let's just, in the time we have remaining, Mike Pereira, Fox Sports, lead head analyst of officiating of Fox Sports. I did that just to piss Dean Blandino off, to give you that.
He's here. I'm in the studio. I'm going to tell him.
Okay.
By the way,
let's give some Saints fans some clarity and potentially a pound of flesh here. Does somebody lose their job over this? Do you think?
No.
Why not?
Well, I mean, so you've got the guys that threw 15 games of the regular season and a playoff game previously to this. You have guys that performed at the highest level. And so that breaks down to one play at the end of the game where they make a bad miss. It is a bad miss. So you're going to fire them? You're going to fire 2 of your best because they missed a call? I don't think you do that. Now, do you take a look why, and do you maybe think about some ramifications of a fine of some course like that? I get worried about that, because once you start fining officials for calls that they don't make, you're going to lead them into calling really ticky-tack stuff, because they're going to be afraid of a fine. And so I think you have to look at the whole body of work, that a guy performs during the course of the season. And if it is bad, and if he was what they call a Tier 3 official and he made a mistake like that in a championship game, then maybe I consider it. But Tier 3 officials, the ones that have performed badly all year, don't even smell the playoffs. And so I would have a hard time looking at the overall strength of my program, firing two guys who performed great over the last couple of years, and especially this year. I hate to admit it, but I've seen wide open receivers drop passes, and at big times I've seen defensive linemen line up off sides, and then the play ends up in an interception. Do you fire him? I think that's being a little bit unreasonable.
Okay, so then let me ask you a couple more questions here. How do they miss it? I mean, walk me through what the crucible of it. I mean, how does that get missed by everybody on the field?
I can't. I look at mechanics and what we always talk about. You talk about at the snap, man zone ball on passing plays. You've got 5 eligible receivers. You've got 5 officials around the 2 in the line of scrimmage and the 3 deep. Each have an official. And so coming off the line, you go man, you have a ball. You have a man, you have a receiver that you've got to clear the line of scrimmage. And then he goes into zone. Whatever receiver comes into your zone, you take him. And then when the ball goes in the air, everybody goes ball. And to me, there were 3 officials, 2 primarily, that had perfect looks of this, and they froze. I mean, I think that, this whole notion of, subconsciously, trying to make the big call. They're never told directly at all to let them play. Never. But I think once you get into the playoffs like this, teams do play a little better, and you want to stay away from the ticky-tack stuff that you may have called earlier. I don't know, but it's inexcusable. I mean, I can't offer anything to defend them in this situation. I've always felt like if it's a bang-bang play, then you're better off not calling it. This was not a bang-bang play. And this was a defender that was not playing the ball. This was a defender that went high and made contact to the head or neck area, and nothing came out of that. Nothing came out of that from any one of the 3, and they're going to live with that. Not as long as the Saints fans and the Saint players are going to have to live with it, because they'll be back on the field, of course, next year also. But I can't come up with an excuse other than they just froze.
And then and then another one for you here is Bill Vinovich speaking to a pool reporter afterwards, was asked about the play, and he's like, I didn't see it, I haven't seen it yet, which infuriated Saints fans even more. Is there a possibility that the league addresses on how things like this are addressed for a fan base seeking answers immediately, Mike?
Well, to me, I'd like to see it, quite frankly, addressed from the league office right after the game instead of the official, because you did the thing in real time, and they send a pool reporter in there, and you haven't even seen it on television yet, so you make yourself look worse. They only let the referee talk, and and he, rightfully so, he didn't see it. I mean, he stays with the quarterback, so that's not his view at all. But I would agree that the response wasn't appropriate to the act, but to me, I'd rather have the league office, as they addressed it with Sean Payton afterwards, apparently, in the conversations with Al Riveron. I would rather there be some mechanism that if there was a pool report requested, that it could actually go to the league, who at least could be involved in the in the statement.
Well, I mean, it was on the scoreboard, and I understand that he's still an official trying to officiate a game, but there's no way he didn't. Look, 2 more questions for you, Mike Pereira, before I let you go. Okay. First one from the AFC.
You don't have to rush. I mean, I'm always happy.
No, I know that. I know that. I've got, I guess, my own time constraints in a way for on the clock. So the overtime rules. You think any appetite to allow a team that's given up a touchdown the chance to respond with a touchdown?
No.
Why?
No. I just think it went long enough with the field goal ending the game, which was not pleasant to anyone, that they had a hard time pushing this through to get it to 2 possessions if the first team did not score a touchdown. I think they pushed as far as they're willing to go, and I think the value of being able to play defense and then winning on a field goal, in your only opportunity to when you get the ball back, I think is enough, and I just don't see them moving on that at all, and I don't think they should.
Really? I mean, Patrick Mahomes may be the MVP of this league, and he didn't even get a chance to touch the football.
Yeah.
I understand
Don't blame me. Don't blame me. blame his defense then if you want to. But I think the system is good. I don't like the college system. I think it extends the game in many cases too long. I just don't see that there will be a movement there.
Okay, and last one for you, and I'd love for you to name a name, Mike. When you were the head of NFL refs, the toughest phone call you had to make after one of your officials blew something on the field to a coach, just like Riveron clearly that's got to be the toughest call he's ever had to make. The one he made to Sean Payton yesterday, Mike.
Yeah, well,
what was yours? What was yours?
I mean, the toughest situation I ever got involved with really was not the tuck play situation, believe it or not, but it was the missed call in the 49er Giant game. And when the Giants attempted to kick a field goal and it was blocked, and then they threw to an eligible receiver who had an ineligible number. We lost track of him, and it should have been pass interference, which would have certainly kept the Giants alive and probably propelled them to the next round of the playoffs. That call that I had to make to the Giants was a really tough call.
Who would you speak to?
We broke down. What's his name? Come on, why am I blanking? His kid is the special teams coach for.
It was Jim Fossil. You had to call Fossil.
I had to call Fossil. I called Fossil and was not a happy man. Was not a happy man at all. And then I felt I wanted to make myself feel better, so my second call was to Mariucci to tell him that I was going to make a public statement that we blew the call, and I didn't want to give him the impression that I was lessening the value of their victory by admitting this mistake. And I called Mooch, and I said, Mooch, I just want you to know that I'm going to make this statement. And he said to me, bummer, and then hung up the phone.
And then he said that. And then he said that bummer. Publicly. Then he said bummer yeah, publicly.
I know it.
So he told you the same thing off the air, off yep. mic too?
That was his response to my call, bummer. Bummer.
Then it made your life worse, didn't it, when he said that?
No, I kind of appreciated it. I always appreciated Mooch anyway, and you knew it when he said it, how his mind works anyways, and it's something that he would say at home or whatever, bummer, and hung up the phone, and on we went.
See, he's consistent. I've never heard that end of the story. Fantastic, Mike. Great chatting with you. Great job, as always. We'll see you down the line.
You got it.
You're the man. That's Mike Pereira. Fox Sports. Been chatting with him since day one of NFL Network when he was the head of NFL refs doing official review on Total Access.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.